Hello and welcome to Verdictum. I am Ananya Singh and you're watching today's legal news, where we apprise you with the recent important legal developments across the nation. Here are the headlines. School transfer certificate not to be relied upon for ascertaining age under the Juvenile Justice Act, rules Supreme Court. 3-judge bench of the Supreme Court to hear petitions for criminalisation of marital rape. Supreme Court directs Delhi High Court to consider with requisite urgency the plea of St. Stephen's College for admission policy. IBC takes precedence over Electricity Act, holds Supreme Court. Asaram moves Gujarat High Court, seeking suspension of conviction in rape case. Now let's take a detailed look at the headlines. A bench of Justices S. Ravindra Bhatt and Arvind Kumar of the Supreme Court held that the school transfer certificate cannot be relied upon when the dispute of ascertaining the age of a person under the Juvenile Justice Act is presented before the court. The court further laid out a list of documents that can be relied upon when the question of age of a person arises in the context of him or her being a victim under the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act. The list included the birth certificate or matriculation board certificate. In absence of birth of matriculation certificate, the birth certificate issued by a corporation or a municipal authority or the panchayat can be relied upon. And if all the above documents are absent, then the age shall be determined by the process of ossification or any other medical test for age determination. The Supreme Court today said that a 3-judge bench will be hearing a batch of petitions relating to the criminalisation of marital rape. The matter was placed before the Apex Court by Senior Advocate Indira Jaising and will be heard by the CJI D.Y. Chandrachud and Justices P.S. Narasimha and Manoj Mishra. In January this year, the top court had sought the response of the central government on petitions for criminalisation of marital rape and the provisions of the Indian Penal Code, specifically the exception to Section 375 dealing with the offence of rape, which provides protection to a husband against prosecution for forcible sexual intercourse with his wife if she is an adult. One of the pleas has been filed before the Delhi High Court, challenging the split verdict delivered by the said High Court on May 11, 2022. The Delhi High Court had, however, granted the petitioner leave to appeal at the Supreme Court, stating that the matter involved a substantial question of law, which required the intervention of the Apex Court. The batch of pleas are filed against the exception to marital rape as being rape, on the ground of it being discriminatory against married women who are sexually assaulted by their husbands. The Supreme Court directed the High Court of Delhi to consider the plea filed by St. Stephen's College against the High Court order, which asked the institution to follow the admission policy of the Delhi University. St. Stephen's is a Christian minority institution, and in September last year, the High Court had ordered it to follow the admission policy formulated by the Delhi University, according to which 100% weightage has to be given to the CUET examination score, while granting admission to non-minority students in the undergraduate courses. The college was disallowed to conduct interviews for the non-minority category students, and the sole basis of their admission should be the CUET score. A bench of Justices B.R. Gavai and J.B. Pardiwala today clarified that the High Court has the liberty to hear the matter further and directed that the matter be heard urgently as it relates to admissions for the present academic year. The Supreme Court has ruled that the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Court takes precedence over the Electricity Act of 2003. This means that the IBC's provisions, including the waterfall mechanism, will be used to determine the order in which the corporate debtors' debts are settled. The waterfall mechanism is a priority order for settling debts in corporate insolvency. The first priority is for the costs of the insolvency process, followed by secured creditors and workmen dues. Employees are next in line, followed by unsecured financial creditors, debts payable to workmen, and any amount due to the government. Any remaining debt is then distributed to shareholders. The court outlines that secured creditors who relinquish their security interest will be paid ahead of those who do not. This is because the waterfall mechanism prioritizes secured creditors who have not enforced their security interests. The court highlighted the important implications for the electricity sector. In the past, electricity distribution companies have been able to use the Electricity Act to claim priority over other creditors. However, the court's ruling means that these companies will now have to compete with other creditors for payment. Self-styled godman Asaram Bapu has moved the Gujarat High Court against the conviction order by the trial court against him in the rape case of his female disciple. Asaram allegedly repeatedly raped the female disciple, but the application made by him to the High Court claims that the case of the prosecution appears to be fake, fabricated, concocted, and an afterthought of the prosecutrix, who filed the case to extort monetary gains from Asaram along with other witnesses. Not only this, the application also claimed that the victim's claim of forceful sexual intercourse is highly improbable, as Asaram was 64 years old, suffering from various health ailments, and the victim was 21 years old at the time the offence is alleged to have taken place. According to the FIR filed in Ahmedabad, Gujarat, the victim claims to have been wrongfully confined at Asaram's ashram, located on the outskirts of Surat, and was raped repeatedly from 2001 to 2006. That was all on today's legal news. Thank you and keep watching Verdictum. And subscribe to our channel and download the Verdictum app on iOS and Android to keep yourself updated with authentic legal news.